sorry. I gotta blink. How do you hold your eyes open that long? Mom, what's happening? Hello? Hello?
Hey, you.
Hi, can you help me?
Yeah.
Not good.
That was most people's reaction to The Good Dinosaur. Not good. Not good. But this one is very, very good. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We have got two movies for the weekend of June 17th, 2016, and they're two really good movies. Starting off with the biggest of the new releases, and that is, of course, Finding Dory, the sequel to Finding Nemo. And again, kind of like with Pixar's other sequels, you think that maybe it's something where it doesn't feel like it needs to be because the first movie was a self-contained story and it feels like this is kind of a cash grab, but hey, a cash grab can work if the movie is working too, and this one definitely does work. Ellen DeGeneres is back as Dory, who's a wide-eyed blue tank fish who suffers from memory loss every 10 seconds or so. The only thing she can remember is that she somehow became separated from her parents as a child. With help from her friends Nemo and Marlin, Dory embarks on an epic journey to find them. Her journey brings her to the Marine Life Institute, a conservatory that houses diverse ocean species, and Dory must now knows that her family reunion will only happen if she can save Mom and Dad from captivity. And like I said, when they first announced this, I was like everybody else. I felt like it was really kind of unnecessary to do this because the first movie did end on a self-contained note, and you really didn't need to continue the story. I mean, even the idea of following it up only seemed to pop up once director Andrew Stanton's live-action John Carter movie bombed at the box office. It's kind of like, oh, well, this bomb better go back to making what's a surefire moneymaker. I mean, it was like that with Brad Bird with Tomorrowland, which was not the big hit that they thought it was going to be, so he went back to Incredibles 2, but kind of like with this movie, Incredibles 2 was a good film. Even the trailers for this, I will admit, didn't really do a good job of selling the movie to me. It made it seem like, hey, remember all those great characters you like? They're all back for no real reason. Come back and see them, which is pretty much what you could say about all these legacy sequels we've been getting recently, specifically Devil Wears Prada 2, which is one that just came out not too long ago, but in fact, just a couple days ago. It was at the time of recording this, May 3rd, but the trailers never really sold me on the film until the most recent trailer of it, the one that just came out just before the movie did, where it focuses more a little bit on what the story is and getting some of the elements of what the world we're going to be heading back into is. And I thought they did a pretty good job of making people realize that, hey, this may not actually be so bad after all. And sure enough, it was downright enjoyable, man. I really do like this movie a lot. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Finding Nemo was, but then again, that's a real hard act to follow. But there is a lot about this stuff that I did really like. For one thing, you can tell the animation has definitely improved in the 13 years since the last movie. The shots of the ocean and the water scenes are much more impressively shot and handled this time around because the technology has clearly advanced from in between movies. You definitely see the noticeable improvements in terms of Pixar's way of creating backgrounds and a universe for the story. It's much more detailed and more textured than the first film was. The voice cast overall is once again great. You got the return of Ellen DeGeneres as Dory, which is awesome. Albert Brooks is great, seeing him back as Marlin. The kid who plays Nemo this time around is actually pretty good. Hayden Rolance is his name. And I really like the new characters they have in here. You got Ty Burrell and Caitlin Olsen as these whales with echolocation, and of course Caitlin Olsen is playing the whale who kind of became friends with Dory and showed her how to talk like a whale. I love the character of Hank, played by Ed O'Neill. Not only is it great to hear Al Bundy as the voice of that octopus, but the fact that he can also shape-shift into things is just, it leads to a lot of great comedic comedy. There's creative comedy all across the board in this, and yeah, it works very well. Idris Elba and Dominic West have a couple of small roles in here playing these walruses who sit on this barge, and every once in a while there's another walrus that's right behind them with this dirt face on him, and they're just screaming at him going like, get off, 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 off! Like, it's something where you think that it would get old fast, but every time it's on screen, I was laughing really hard at that. Seeing Dory's parents, played by Eugene Levy and the late Diane Keaton, they were really good. I thought they were actually very enjoyable in here. And Sigourney Weaver has a really, really fun role in here, playing like the announcer for the Marine Life Institute. And she says, you know, my name is Sigourney Weaver. And Dory thinks that's a sign that she should follow what she says. It's just like she feels like she's actually a real person that's right there with her. But the nods to the original movie are definitely there, but unlike most sequels, they don't force the nods onto you like crazy. They're put in very effectively and nicely, although I will admit there's one part in the mid-credits where they bring back the tank gang from the first movie for kind of a pointless cameo, really. It's just like, hey, these guys are here too, and it's just like they really don't really contribute a whole lot to the story in general. I felt they were kind of unnecessary here, but the movie does a great job of getting an emotional impact out of you in many, many ways. You do really get invested in Dory's search to find her family, and you get invested in the backstory and how she ends up living with her parents. You do get invested in the characters and feel the circumstances they face. There's a great scene where Dory thinks that, her parents were killed or something like that, and this is coming like not 8 years before Inside Out 2 did a great job of showing what an anxiety and panic attack looks like. I mean, Inside Out 2 did it really well. This movie did a pretty good job too, because Dory really has this thing where like her mental health starts to go crazy when she can't figure out what happened to her, when she thinks her parents are dead and all that. And like this really great shot where they're in this, she's in this tank at first, and then it's a one-shot scene where she's in this tank. Something happens where she gets spilled out of the tank, and she falls into the sewer, the drain, and goes into the ocean. And then of course eventually she finds her way towards her parents, and it's a very effective scene. It's a really cool thing that they did with this movie in general. I thought the comedy overall was surprisingly really funny. Like, one of the things that really, like, I just love the fact that this movie, it kind of leads into one of my complaints about the movie. I'll say this. I'll talk about my complaints and then get to that scene, because it's coming up on what I want to talk about here. But the biggest problem with the film is that it is kind of a been there, done there storyline, so much to the point that Pixar copies their own story structure that they had with Toy Story 2. Kind of the same thing, really. A main character's taken away from their home to a strange new place where they come across new friends and old friends from the past. There's a quest involved, some secrets are revealed, twists and turns, and there's a crazy climax at the end. Like, this is literally a driving scene that's way too similar to Toy Story 2, but it's a scene where they have this barricade of cops, and Dory and Hank are driving this car, and they go over the barricade, and you see this cop looking up with his shades on eating his donut and having a coffee. He's just looking at this like, yeah, this isn't the most unusual thing I've ever seen. It's only Tuesday. Like, which makes me believe that both Finding Nemo and Toy Story are set in the same universe. It would make sense why this cop would have this reaction. Like, I mean, instead of, like, he's like, yeah, whatever. Instead of being like, holy shit, there's a fucking octopus driving a truck. Which, to be fair, is one of the funniest moments in the entire movie. I complain about it being too similar to Toy Story 2, but I cannot lie. I was laughing really hard at how over the top that was. I thought that was so ridiculous. It's a thing that's so stupid, so ridiculous, but then it comes around to just being fun again, just the way they set it up. But, I mean, if there's one thing that really bothered me about the movie and the story, it's the way that Dory's parents do eventually find them. Like I said, it starts off great. They make it seem like Dory's parents ended up dying because they were waiting so long for a return in quarantine, but then she accidentally gets sent back into the ocean, and then somehow comes across her parents alive and well, and tells her that she always knew they'd find them, so they decided to live in the most desolated, unknown area in the ocean. Like, I mean, really, the parents really didn't put it together that, hey, maybe we should make it easier to find our daughter better, our daughter that has memory loss. I mean, that really kind of bugged me overall, but again, I mean, it's not a killer overall. It's just more of a nuisance thing. It's just kind of like, I mean, you really went to all that trouble to make it much harder for your daughter to find you. But, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have that great spark that Finding Nemo had, but there is more than enough entertainment value in it to say that I really enjoyed this movie. It's not Cars 2. We're all good, and this is far from it. As long as it's not that movie, we're good. Like, there's still more than enough magic in this universe to keep Finding Dory extremely enjoyable. Nicely animated, great characters, good comedy. The story works despite its predictability. It's a really good movie. It's a film I do really enjoy a lot. It's a great sequel. It's a very good sequel that's about on par with the original Finding Nemo. I'll say that. It's not as good as Finding Nemo. It's about as close as you can get to being good, So, what movie has the nerve to go up against the sequel to one of the biggest animated hits of all time? The first time we see Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart teaming up together in a comedy, and a pretty good one, Central Intelligence.
Never gonna get it, never gonna get it, never gonna get it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Never gonna get it, never gonna get it.
God Lord, what a selling point for that movie. Yeah, that trailer is probably a good example of what works about this movie and some of the things that people thought were not going to work about that movie, specifically the young rock jump scare with the braces and all that. I mean, good Lord, that is terrifying, but at the same time, it's good makeup work. I'll give him that. Good makeup work mixed in with CG to put Dwayne Johnson's face on there. That's part of the fun about this movie, man. It's one of those movies where it really is one of those films that does not really have a whole. It's not really smart and all that, but in a way, it doesn't need to be smart because it just works because of how well the elements are coming together here. You got a story about an old school pal played by Dwayne Johnson meeting up through Facebook with a mild-mannered accountant played by Kevin Hart, who's lured into the world of international espionage. They were both in high school together. Kevin Hart was seen as the cool guy, and Dwayne Johnson was Fat Robbie. And you saw what right there, you know, he was fat, he got embarrassed in the shower, but Kevin Hart was the one that usually stood up for him. And, you know, how can you not love these guys? I mean, they have excellent personalities. They both just seem like really cool guys off screen. Guys that you really want to be friends with in real life. So naturally, to see them both together in this movie for the first time, it has a lot of potential. And not only that, you got Ross and Marshall Thurber, who directed Dodgeball, We're the Millers, some of the best comedies of the last couple of years. There's a lot of strong talent behind this one, which you think would equal success, but as we've seen in the past, even the strongest elements don't make a great movie, but this one definitely is not that case at all. This was actually one of the more funnier, enjoyable comedies that I've seen in a long time, and, you know, probably the funniest one since I've seen 22 Jump Street. I know I just talked about it with another comedy, but, yeah, I can't remember how hard I laughed at a movie this funny. This is really good stuff right here. And it works mostly because Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart are just comedy gold together. These two share some of the most excellent and amazing chemistry I've ever seen in a comedy duo. They are just terrific on screen together. When these two come together, it's something like you'd expect, seeing how well they work off their screen personas. I mean, they are really, really funny in this movie. Kevin Hart can usually make any pairing work, even in really bad movies. Like I said with Get Hart, the best thing about that movie is the chemistry between Hart and Will Ferrell. Even in Ride Along, Hart and Ice Cube work off each other very well. But this, Johnson and Hart are so good in this. This is basically near close to being kind of like the Bob Hope and Dean Martin for a new generation, pretty much. I mean, it's kind of like that. And, you know, studio saw how well this did and said, okay, we'll put these guys together in the Jumanji movie. And sure enough, that movie worked out well. In about a year from now, we'll get to that. But the comedy overall is just great. There's a lot of great one-liners between these two guys. But there's also really funny and enjoyable comedy sequences. Even that opening bit does get decent laughs, and the effects do work very well. They do a good job, as I said, making Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart look as young as they did. It's pretty impressive. It doesn't look fake at all, and I like the fact that they had Johnson go off character, not make him the standard badass action hero, but you give him sort of a personality of a teenager, too. They don't make him the typical action hero you expect Johnson to play, and that's fun. That's cool. That's great to see that. Granted, the story is very predictable, right down to figuring out who the real bad guy is. Once you see him on screen, it's just kind of like, we have our bad guy, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it's just, yeah, it's a cliched little story, but again, if a movie is working because of everything else, you can usually put that aside. We just talked about it with Finding Dory, and in this movie, yeah, the main focus of is the chemistry and the comic timing between Johnson and Hart. It's an afterthought. Yeah, it's about as typical as a typical buddy cop movie can get, but nevertheless, it was still one of the funniest comedies I had seen in a long time, solely on the great chemistry and timing of Johnson and Hart. It just works so well. It's another winner for Ross and Marshall Thurber. It's definitely one of the more enjoyable comedies I've seen in a long, long time. It's great, man. Central Intelligence is definitely it. A fun time at the movies. Seek it out if you haven't seen it already. And thus, the fun times have to come to an end, because next time on Time About the Movies, we get some not-so-very-good movies, including yet another one of those sequels that nobody was asking for, but because it's 20 years after Independence Day, and Roland is desperate to get back into the blockbuster business again, he gives us the sequel nobody was asking for, Independence Day Regurgitate. I know it's called Resurgence, but trust me, Regurgitate is what you'll be doing once you watch this piece of shit. But we also have Blake Lively starring in the shark thriller The Shadows. We have Matthew McConaughey starring in Free State of Jones, a movie that should have been good, had the trailer not spoiled everything. And no, this trailer, if you remember the trailer for Free State of Jones, it literally spoils everything that happens in the movie, and it ruins it for you. We also have The Neon Demon, which is a movie that I can't remember who directed, and it's not Taika Waititi, because he has another movie out this weekend, Hunt for the Wilder People, that we'll also talk about. Nicholas Winding Refn, the guy who did Drive. We'll take a look at that movie. We'll also take a look at the directors of the Oscar-winning Everything Everywhere All at Once with Swiss Army Man, their first movie, Swiss Army Man, or the first one that I was aware of. Of course, the infamous movie where one of the selling points was that it had Daniel Radcliffe and all. He's a dead body who farts around, like literally farts around. It's a movie where some people question it, but then again, it's an A24 movie. Of course you're going to question it. And like I said, we'll take a look at Taika Waititi's Hunt for the Wilder People. So we got 6 movies to look at here on this. Well, technically it is the last weekend of June, since the next week will be July 1st. That Friday will be July 1st, but We'll take a look at those movies on the next episode, so be on the lookout for that tomorrow. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.